Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. In this video I will discuss the second front opened against the Russians. And this is a hot war opened kind of front. The third one is Georgia. Yes. And the fourth one will be what? Probably in Far East Asia. So let's see what's going on in Syria. Let's make a little summary, okay, before we get into this. Syria. It's a country in the East Mediterranean Sea, okay? And it's around somewhere in the vicinity of Israel. Very important detail. It's not a detail, but nevertheless. So, Syria has a government of Bashar al-Assad. So, Mr. Bashar al-Assad, he is the ruler of Syria. In 2011, some rebels decided that they don't like this guy and they wanted to overthrow him with the support of, some people say, the Americans and the West, NATO, Defensive Alliance. So they started they call it civil war. These guys are called rebels, even though they had some jihadists and other groups in their components. So the Americans intervened because of the ISIS and all that. And ISIS came from Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda came from Mujahideens in Afghanistan. And they were helped and founded by everything. All the roads go to Rome, right? So follow the money. You're going to find out who's who and what's what. So then the Americans just landed in a sovereign independent country of Syria and landed troops over there, took over the northeast of Syria where they have oil, and they have been there since then fighting the terrorists. But these guys are not called terrorists. These guys are called, democratic forces, opposition forces, maybe rebels, the guys that are fighting the Syrian army at this point. Remember, they have a legitimate government. Bashar al-Assad. They have a government. The Americans are illegally occupying the territory of a sovereign independent country, not invited by the legitimate government of Syria. The Russians are invited officially, and the Iranians were invited officially to fight the ISIS. That was also fought by us. Now, what's going on right now? Because of the garbage that occurs in Ukraine at this point, triggered by Putin's imperialistic and evil plans, okay, in a unprovoked and undefensible attack, how should I call it, illogical attack of Ukraine, we have to defend freedom and democracy. The same thing we do over there in Syria, where someone started a new front against the Russians, who are pushing the Western forces to the West, which is supposedly the Ukrainians. Poor Ukrainians. So, let's see what's going on in Syria. And you're going to find here some lies, many lies. It's up to you to figure out which one is a lie and which one is not a lie, and so on. Russia Today. Russian jets strike jihadists near Aleppo and Idlib in Syria. Military report. So, Russian jets, they're in a war in Syria because of the legitimate government of Assad allows them to be over there. More than 400 terrorists, that's how Russia Today calls them, have been killed in a wave of airstrikes, a Russian colonel has said. Okay, next one. This comes from Ukrainska Pravda, which is obviously owned by the Western free world, which is Institute for the Study of War. You should never trust those guys. Always don't trust anybody unless you build a relationship with that person or entity. So Kremlin fears losing control of Syria amid rapid advance of opposition forces. They are opposition forces, not terrorists. And this is the Institute for the Study of War. Just as a start for you, go and see who is the director of the Institute for the Study of War. Don't worry, I tell you. Kimberly Kagan, from Kaganovich. Kimberly Kagan is married with Mr. Kagan. And Mr. Kagan has a brother, another Kagan, who's married to Victoria Neulandstein. It's an enterprise, my friends. Got it? So that's just the beginning. But the Ukrainians, with a Zelensky Stein in charge, They cite only these guys because this think tank in Washington, D.C., Institute for the Study of War, is telling us the truth. It is the most trustworthy think tank connected with Victoria Nuland, who was in Maidan, and had something to do with the overthrow of a legitimate democratic government of Ukraine in 2014, Viktor Yanukovych. Just a coincidence. All right, this is what those guys report. Next one. I'm going to show you how the Western media reports this terrorist attack against the Syrian government, which is the legitimate government. CNN, oh my God, the Americans, the most trusted garbage in the news, right? Syrian rebels take control of most of Aleppo city. And I skimmed through this. They are happy about it. CNN is not reporting like they should be. Oy vey! The terrorists are going to take another independent sovereign country. Stable country. No, they are shalom. Let's go. Now, this is just CNN. But hey, we have BBC right here. Syrian rebels take control of majority. Observers say. The Telegraph, Syrian rebels capture majority. So these are the free media. BBC, which is partly state-owned, right? This garbage, the Telegraph, and then you have this garbage, CNN, right? Right. Next one, Sputnik. Russian army pushes back. They call these guys terrorists. Restores control in key northern Hama locations. All right? So what do you think, my friends? The Russians are involved in another war, and the Americans have nothing to do with this. They just bring freedom and democracy. Remember, when I say Americans, I'm saying this guy's in charge of America. In charge of the guys that we are allowed to confirm through our election, their selection. Got that? All right. So this is the second front. The first one is Ukraine. This is the second front. The third one is in Georgia. It's a regime change in progress occurring in Georgia. Why? Because the wrong people, when I say wrong people, that is the ones that the West don't like, which means they're not their vassals. Maybe they're someone else's vassals, or maybe they're their Georgian people's selection through democratic vote. So they don't like it. Therefore, they push some buttons. Some NGOs funded by some Hungarian-born philanthropists and others. They will just be activated together with our sales over there inside Georgia, and we're gonna go and change the regime. Why? A la Maidan style. Why? When we don't like how the outcome of an election, the will of the people, we're told, is, then we just organize just spontaneous demonstrations. And those demonstrations will become illegal after they cross the time limit they agreed to. Remember, every time you protest, you have to say, oh, I'm going to protest from this time to that time. If you exceed that, you're in violation of the order of the city or of the country. So for the good, for the common good, you have to get in and take care of the people who are violating the law. This happens in the United States of America too. So that's what's going on in Georgia. I made a video previous to this one regarding that bullshit. Now Syria, that's a hot war. And Iran, the French said, the Iranian regime is going to have a nuclear weapon. Thank you very much. Did you know who Donald Trump nominated as the ambassador to France, to Paris? None other than Charles, not King Charles, I think that's what's his name, Charles Kushner. Sounds familiar? Yeah, that Kushner, the father of the other Kushner and the Zelensky Stein. So, no wonder France said, you know what, the Iranians are ready to build a nuclear weapon, because the other guys in the Jewish state said the same thing. Why? For you to say, yeah, we can let that happen. No. So that means we can bomb the shit out of them? Is that what it is? First, we should take our illegal deployment in Syria. If we are really truthful and, to uphold our, the virtues and values and, principles. That's all garbage. I'm not saying the other side is good, but the problem with this is this. These guys do hanky-panky, illegal stuff, and they want us to hail them as, oh my God, that's great. Yeah, and I want you to call me good even though I'm a criminal. Is that what it is? It reminds me of a book where you have an entity who commits a lot of shit, but still, he loves you. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.